What was the main goal of the educational reforms during the Vargas era?
Strong choice. Implement a standardized curriculum is the right answer.
Which of the following men is considered the father of public education?
Bravo! Horace Mann is the answer.
Supreme Court granted bilingual education to Spanish-speaking students.
Good thinking. 1970s is the right answer.
Education in the South was controlled or run by which group of people?
Great thinking. Wealthy landowner is the right choice.
The initiation ceremony of education in the Vedic period was known as.
Valid point. Upanayana is true.
Bonus! The public standardized education was introduced in what year?
On track. 1892 is the correct answer.
Who introduced the Prussian model of education in the United States?
Nicely done. Horace Mann is a solid answer.
Who was the pioneer of the vocational education movement in Germany?
You chose Friedrich Froebel, and it is correct.
What subject did Jean-Jacques Rousseau place the most importance on?
Well done. Handicraft education is the right choice.
What was the major impact of the Apple I on education technology?
Exactly. It donated a computer to every school in America. Makes sense, and it is right choice.
What was the program for Apple when they gave computers to schools?
Excellent choice. Kids can't wait is the right answer.
What did the impact of normal schools lead to in the 20th century?
You're right. Education courses increasingly moved into regular colleges and universities is the correct answer.
By 1785, what were the key components of education in schools?
Great job. Religion, morality, knowledge is the accurate answer.
What did the entry of women into the teaching profession lead to?
Nice work. You chose women being the majority of teachers to this day, and it is correct.
Who was the pioneer of vocational education in the United States?
Excellent. Booker T. Washington is a brilliant choice.
Movement toward focusing teaching on reading, writing, and math.
Smart move. Back to basics movement is an accurate answer.
The National Defense Education Act was established in what year?
Correct response. 1958 is the most accurate answer.
What steps were taken to address the issue of truancy in the UK?
You got it. Your choice extended compulsory education age is right.
The word school comes from the Greek skol, which means dash.
Solid response. Leisure is a valid choice.
What was the focus of Renaissance classical humanism education?
Well reasoned. Classical language and literature is the correct choice.
What was the purpose of ragged schools in 19th century Britain?
Smart pick. Providing free education, food, and clothing to destitute children is the correct choice.
What was the main focus of the Escola Nova movement in Brazil?
Well picked. Psychology and child development is the correct answer.
What was Jefferson committed to when it came to education?
Nice selection. Educating all white Americans is the correct and valid answer.
How did the Vedic education system contribute to the society?
Perfect. Promoting knowledge, moral values, and social harmony is the correct choice.
Students taking the education pathway are training to be dash. Clear logic. Your choice, teachers, is sound and 100% true. Which ancient civilization had a formal system of education?
Correct. Indus Valley Civilization is the right answer.
What is the term for someone who is unable to read or write?
Sharp thinking. Illiterate is the right choice.
Which group felt discrimination during early education eras?
Good job. Your answer all of the above works well here.
What year did organized education start in Gwinnett County?
Right again, 1821 is a valid answer.
In Confucian education, what do students call their mentor?
Right choice. Master is the best answer.
What was the first formal teacher education program called?
Exactly. Normal schools make sense, and it is right choice.
What was the main effect of the 1988 Education Reform Act?
Strong choice. Reduced state control is the right answer.
Differences between ancient Greek and Eastern education.
Smart move. Eastern, memorization, Greek. Individual development is an accurate answer.
When did the Prussian model of education get introduced?
Great thinking. Early 1800s is the right choice.
When was state-run education first introduced in the UK?
Excellent choice. 1870 is the right answer.
What was the purpose of the Prussian model of education?
You got it? Your choice to create tractable citizens is right.
What kind of families had access to medieval education?
Perfect. Wealthy families is the correct choice.
What were the two forms of education in ancient Greece?
Well reasoned. Formal and informal is the correct choice.
Where did the US get many of its ideas about education?
Smart pick. Greeks is the correct choice.
What is the key idea of the 1980 Education Reform Act?
On track. Parentocracy is the correct answer.
What is the main advantage of technology in education?
You chose making classrooms more human. And it is correct.
During the 1940s and 1950s, education in America dash?
Sharp thinking. Was affected by world events and social change is the right choice.
What is the term for classes taught in two languages?
You're right. Bilingual education is the correct answer.
Who is considered to be father of American education?
Nicely done. Horace Mann is a solid answer.
What is the traditional model of education based on? Valid point. Age-based cohorts is true. When was the National Education Association founded?
Right choice. 1917 is the best answer.
What did Horace Mann help create?
Excellent. Massachusetts State Board of Education is a brilliant choice.
Which is a characteristic of the Southern colonies?
Good thinking. All of the above is the right answer.
What was the purpose of Sunday schools in England?
Nice selection. Teaching reading, writing, and the Bible is the correct and valid answer.
When did the progressive education movement start?
Clear logic. Your choice 1890s is sound and 100% true. National Policy of Education document consists of
Solid response. 12 parts is a valid choice.
How did early learning evolve from ancient times?
Great job. Observation and oral traditions to formal education with writing is the accurate answer. It is a substitute for formal or basic education.
Good job. Your answer if works well here.
A renewed emphasis on reading, writing, and math.
Right again. Back to basics movement is a valid answer.
What was a major issue in education in the 1950s?
Correct response. Segregation is the most accurate answer. Spartan, Athenian, and Roman education focuses. Well done. Spartan, military, Athenian, arts, Roman, law and citizenship is the right choice. Which act introduced the national curriculum? Well picked. 1988 Education Reform Act is the correct answer. What was the purpose of the Committee of 10?
Bravo! To standardize education across states is the answer.
What was Anna Iliot Ticknor the founder of? Correct. The Society to Encourage Studies at Home is the right answer. Primary education started in Nigeria. Nice work. You chose 1845 and it is correct. Current challenges in modern education. Valid point. Information overload. Maintaining student motivation is true. This led to increased STEM education. Well done. Sputnik is the right choice. Criticisms of contemporary education. You chose lagging standards, bureaucratic inefficiencies, resource scarcity. And it is correct. Classes taught in multiple languages. Perfect. Bilingual education is the correct choice. What are competency-based education? You got it. Your choice bilingual education is right. What is accountability in education? Nicely done. Bilingual education is a solid answer. What was the Young Ladies Academy? Good job. Your answer, the first academy for girls, works well here. Lessons from educational history.
Strong choice. Adapt, learn from errors, build on historical foundations is the right answer.
What was Bradley's nickname? Good thinking. Father of the thigh printing industry is the right answer. President Obama signed this act. Well picked. The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 is the correct answer. What are educational standards? Smart move. National standards is an accurate answer. The Civil Rights Act of 1964. Correct response. Called for an end to segregation in schools is the most accurate answer. Benjamin Bloom was known for.
Right choice. A hierarchy of learning is the best answer.
What are standardized tests? Great job. National standards is the accurate answer. OBEC is an abbreviation for. Well reasoned. office of the Basic Education Commission is the correct choice.
What is the global economy?
Correct. National standards is the right answer.
In 1880, education was made. Excellent choice. Compulsory for elementary level is the right answer. Education in 2 languages. Bravo, bilingual education is the answer. What is a charter school?
Clear logic. Your choice bilingual education is sound and 100% true.
Elementary education was.
Sharp thinking. Covered the basics is the right choice. How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format. Right again. Contact Narayan Changder is a valid answer.